Bill is 65 years old. His wife, Janet, is 63. They are retiring in 2024 with $750,000 in 401k plans. One of their big concerns, how will their income be taxed? If you're planning for retirement, this is something you need to know. Evan and Julie are here to discuss this on Wealth Wednesday. Hello, welcome back to our show. If you would like to learn more about our firm, please visit cfswb.com and also check out our other videos on our YouTube channel. I'm joined today by Julie Daly. She's a financial advisor in St. Clairsville, Ohio, and Evan Brockmeyer, a financial advisor here in Marietta. So let's set the stage here a little bit. This is the first part of a three-part series about how retirement income is taxed. We have a couple, Bill and Janet. We know they have $750,000 in 401k accounts. They have about $25,000 in a savings account that will be their cash reserve. Bill is expected to receive about $1,926 per month from Social Security at age 65, and Janet's going to receive about $802 for her own benefit at age 63. Their expected spending in retirement is roughly $76,000 per year. In addition, Bill tells us that several years ago, he contributed about $63,000 to his accounts on an after-tax basis. The rest of his contributions were made pre-tax. Julie, we're going to start with you. Welcome back. This is a fairly common situation that we see regularly when we're working with people heading into retirement. Let's start with some very general things we need to know.
Sure. Thanks, Neil. So before we start thinking about taxes, we need to really understand how Bill and Janet are going to get the income that they need. So we'll have a chart here up on the screen. But first of all, we want to say that in this situation, which is not uncommon, it's very common. They have their 401k accounts and their Social Security income. They are going to get roughly $32,700 from Social Security each year. And the rest of their income needs are going to come from their investment accounts. So if you take a look at the first column here, the year 2024, Bill is age 65, Janet is age 63. You'll see their Social Security income is $32,700 approximately. You'll see their living expenses, which Neil already mentioned, and the taxes that need to be paid. So the bottom row is showing us where the net cash flow is negative. So that $46,800, that's going to be what they need to provide for themselves. So comes from 401k and or savings. And you can see the rest of the columns and the differences in the years and the growth of Social Security and the cost of living expenses as well. So we know that the majority of their income is going to be from their pre-tax 401k. So this money that they take out of the 401k is going to be taxed as ordinary income. We also know that because of these distributions, a portion of their Social Security income is going to be taxed. In this case, 85% of their Social Security benefits will be taxable.
Evan, there's an interesting twist here. Bill made some after-tax contributions to his 401k, but he did this before that Roth 401k existed. How does this work, and what are their options with this money?
Yeah, that's a unique situation, and it can get complex fairly quickly. So let's just stick to the basics here. So from our initial information, Bill, he contributed $63,000 on an after-tax basis. So the important part of this is to avoid paying taxes twice. And to understand that, we need to know the difference between basis, which are his contributions, and the earnings on that. So he has a few different options of how he can handle this. He could do a direct transfer of those contributions to a Roth IRA. Now, that's not the earnings, that's purely the contributions. The earnings can go to a traditional IRA, or they could be taken in cash. And if he took them in cash, then there would be tax to be paid on that. He can receive the entire amount, the full after-tax balance, in a check. And that would likely come in two forms. One check for the pre-tax amount, the earnings that have not been taxed, and then another check for the after-tax amount, which are the contributions that he made up front. And then another option, which is not a route we would suggest, is to roll over the full amount to a traditional IRA. And future distributions in this case would have a basis that need excluded from the taxable amount that he'll see on his 1099. So this isn't something we'd recommend because the client has to track the basis, and that's just something that can get pretty hairy that could run into very challenging strategies for managing that.
Yeah, that's one of the mistakes that people would oftentimes make years ago when that was a possibility. You just want to try to avoid that last thing. Julie, let's look ahead a few years, and this is one of the most common things that we get asked. What happens at age 73 for Bill and age 75 for Janet?
Sure. So at those ages, 73 for Bill, 75 for Janet, they will need to start taking their required minimum distributions, or RMDs, as we commonly refer to them. So the reason they have different beginning dates is due to the recent changes that have been passed in the Secure Act. So Bill reached age 73 prior to 2033. So his required beginning date is age 73. And then Janet, on the other hand, she did not turn 73 prior to 2033. So her required beginning date is now age 75. So they have to start taking minimum amount from their IRAs and report it as income whether they need it or not. And I think I speak for the group here that we do have several clients that don't need the income to live on. And so an option can be to take the distribution because we have to, but you can always put it over into another investment account and still have that money invested and working for you. So looking at the chart on the screen here, we can see where these distributions begin. So the first column in 2032, that is the year Bill turns 73. So you'll see Social Security income for the both of them is $39,300. Now his required minimum distribution is $6,900 approximately. You'll see their living expenses and then taxes that will be paid, their outgoing cash flows. So what is needed from savings and or investments to replace that income that they need for their expenses is $38,800. Now, if we look at I'll skip through and let's look at the final column, the year 2036. This is now the year that Janet turned 75. So you'll see their Social Security income is approximately $43,100, and their RMDs in that year jump up substantially to $25,100. So you'll see at the very bottom what is needed now to supply for themselves from savings and or investments is now $19,900.
Right. And in addition to that, oftentimes we see people whose living expenses decrease as they get older. They're doing fewer things, they're doing less things. So this creates maybe an unwanted tax liability in their own situation. Evan, in future episodes, we're going to discuss some future planning opportunities for Bill and Janet. But on the surface, there's not many ways to manage the overall tax situation here, are there?
No, not really. Aside from the after-tax contributions, not a lot of opportunity. There may be one important one we can touch on, but depending on their goals and future needs, they can use the after-tax contributions to fund a Roth IRA, as we mentioned earlier. And that could be a good estate planning tool for the kids. And in this case, it'd be a good idea to start that 5-year clock by opening that IRA. They could use those contributions in a joint account, and if they have a big expenditure coming up, a car or something like that. But overall, their ability to plan their own tax situation is a little bit out of their hands, but they do have an opportunity for Roth conversions in the future. But that's a topic for another time.
So in part 2 of this series, we're going to look at what happens when Bill and Janet pass away and how this impacts their kids' tax situation. And in part 3 of this series, we're going to look at some of those planning opportunities available to them and the long-term tax impacts for both themselves and their kids. Guys, thanks for joining me today. And if you'd like to know how taxes can impact your retirement and you'd like to connect with Julie or Evan or myself, please visit cfswb.com. Thanks for watching. Have a great week.